Welcome back to the Vintage New Jersey podcast. If you've ever driven through New Jersey and you feel like you're crossing a new town every 2 minutes, you're not imagining things. New Jersey has one of the most fragmented local government systems in the entire country. There are more than 560 municipalities packed into this one of the smallest states in America. But the really interesting part is how that actually happened. This story involves political fights, local pride, tax battles, and even something historians jokingly call Boroughitis. Today, we're going to explore how New Jersey's map was literally redrawn numerous times over time, from Bergen County's borough boom to Newark losing chunks of its land to the strange case of 4 towns sharing one tiny beach island. Let's check it out. So segment 1, Boroughitis. Let's start in Bergen County in the 1890s. At the time, the area was made up mostly of large townships, but residents began pushing to create their own smaller municipalities. And that begs the question, why? Mostly for local control. Smaller towns meant residents could control their own schools, roads, and taxes rather than being governed by a larger township. New Jersey law at the time made it surprisingly easy to form a new borough. If enough residents signed a petition, a referendum could be held and a new municipality can be created. I mean, it was that simple. And there were a lot of towns doing that back then. And like I said, people took advantage of it fully. In 1894 and 1895 alone, around 40 new boroughs were created across the entire state. And 26 of them were in Bergen County, which is insane. Historians later nicknamed this phenomenon Boroughitis. Before the boom, Bergen County had roughly a dozen townships, but by the early 1900s, it had exploded to around 70 municipalities or towns. That's why today you can drive through Bergen County and cross town borders every few blocks. And you're not crazy. You're not imagining things. I mean, it's a thing. Places like Pagoda, Fairview, and dozens of others were born during that Boroughitis wave. It wasn't a disease, of course, obviously, but it spread just as quickly as one. So yeah, that was a very unique New Jersey thing to happen back in the day. The next element to this whole phenomenon is Newark and how it shrunk. So South Newark was one of New Jersey's oldest cities. Newark was founded in 1666 and it originally covered a massive area compared to what we see today. I mean, it was huge. In its early days as a township, Newark included land that would later become many of the surrounding communities in the entire Essex County region. But over time, places began to kind of break away. They seceded from the Union, so to speak. In 1794, so close to 100 years after its founding, a large section split off and formed Springfield Township. Later, other areas separated as well, including Caldwell Township. Then in the late 1800s and early 1900s, the fragmentation just continued. It just began to crack even more. In 1894, the neighborhood of Valesburg even became its own borough during this Boroughitis era. Newark did manage to annex some of its territory back, areas like Woodside in 1871 and parts of Clinton Township in 1879. So they recaptured them. But overall, the city shrank and the suburbs, kind of formed around it. So today, Newark sits at about 24 square miles, much smaller than it might have been if it expanded like many modern American cities and it hadn't, broken off into different municipalities. The independent towns that surround Newark today are largely the result of these historical breakaways. So the next segment is Central Jersey and its changes. Yes, Central Jersey exists. This pattern wasn't just a North Jersey phenomenon. In In Central Jersey, towns also reshaped their identities through name changes and reorganizations. One example is Old Bridge Township. For most of its history, it was actually called Madison Township, but the name created constant confusion with Madison Borough in North Jersey. So, and this was fairly recently, in 1975, residents voted to rename the township Old Bridge. Then, if you go, I guess, further south, you have Monmouth and Ocean counties. There were also numerous name changes there as well, and it was pretty fairly common as communities tried to establish, their own unique identities. So places like Homedale and even sections of Plumstead Township experimented with different names at different points in the 1800s. Those town names weren't always a political move, but they show how communities were constantly redefining themselves. So next up is the Wildwoods. This is one of the most unusual examples of this Boroughitis plague. On a narrow barrier island in Cape May County, you'll find separate municipalities packed onto one relatively small space. You have Wildwood, North Wildwood, Wildwood Crest, and West Wildwood. So despite sharing the same island, each town has its own mayor, police force, fire department, and just overall local government. They even share certain services and like high schools and beach operations. And just to make things even a little bit more complicated, a tiny portion of this island at the southern tip is actually called Lower Township. So that's another town there. So this dense cluster of towns is basically Boroughitis, but on a beach island. So another interesting part of this New Jersey municipality history is the name changes. So sometimes towns wanted to distance themselves from a neighboring city. So you take West Paterson in Passaic County. For decades, residents tried to change the name because it tied them too closely to the city of Paterson. So there was votes in 1989, 1995, and even 2001, and they all failed. But in 2008, so really recently, it finally passed. So on January 1st, 2009, West Paterson officially became Woodland Park. So WP, West Paterson, Woodland Park. A similar story happened nearby as well. East Paterson changed its name to Elmwood Park. So East Paterson EP, Elmwood Park EP. And this happened in 1973, also partly to create a new identity to separate itself completely from the city of Paterson. So with all that being said, all of these stories help explain why New Jersey looks the way it does on a map today, from Bergen County's Boroughitis boom to Newark shrinking as the suburbs broke away to different towns. You have the tiny beach towns in Wildwood. The state's borders were shaped by local decisions and identity, taxes, and just overall control. So the next time you're driving through New Jersey and you pass 5 different towns in less than 5 miles, you can remember why. It's not bad planning. It's not kind of just like a made up thing. It's just a part of our unique history. And here in New Jersey, history didn't just happen. It got subdivided one borough at a time. So thanks for listening. If you have a favorite New Jersey history fact, send it in. I'll maybe do a little podcast about it. Thanks for listening to my little rants. I call them podcasts, but they're basically just little history rants. Like, subscribe, share, and I'll catch you on the next one.
Message New Jersey podcast.